Hello, you're watching Eye on Africa with me, Yena Lee. Tonight, a Kenyan court sentences 2 men to 18 years in prison for helping gunmen in the Westgate mall attack. Dozens of people were killed in the 2013 rampage. A Nigerian judicial panel finds bullet casings at the site of the Lekki shooting. Several witnesses accuse security forces of opening fire on End SARS protesters just over a week ago. Police denied the allegations. And finally, we take a look at how COVID-19 is forcing entrepreneurs in Morocco to turn to online business. For some, it's a chance to discover the highs and lows of the digital marketplace. But first, Tanzania's John Magufuli has won a second term in office. The country's National Electoral Commission has declared him the winner of the presidential election. The incumbent won 12.5 million votes. His main challenger, Chadema Party's Tundu Lissu, received 1.9 million, with turnout standing at around 50%. All of this according to the commission. The opposition has described the vote as a travesty. Meanwhile, in simultaneous parliamentary elections, Magufuli's party won 253 of 261 constituencies. It's an overwhelming majority that gives the president the power to change the constitution. A Kenyan court sentenced 2 men to 18 years in prison for their involvement in the Westgate shopping mall attack. One of them is to spend an additional 15 years behind bars for possession of materials promoting terrorism. Both are allowed to appeal. The 2 men were the only people to be convicted in relation to the rampage. In 2013, gunmen killed 67 people at the upscale Nairobi mall. Now, for more on this story, we cross now to journalist Anne Masharia. Hello, Anne. A marathon trial has ended after almost 7 years. Is this what families had hoped for?
All right, many thanks for joining up for hosting me actually. But this, after 7 years, we have families that this is what they've been waiting for. Families that really waited for 7 years just to see the cases of the court take justice into these people. And actually, I actually attended the hearing today, and most of the families were saying it's justice at last. They can now rest. At least they know that their families or their people they lost can get justice. This is one thing about the court systems in Kenya, is that they take a long time because of the backlog of cases. And it took actually 7 years to make sure just to deliver justice to these families. Something that it should be our court systems, if they could be able to actually deal with such cases at a faster level or at a fast level, could make more families happier than they were today.
All right. And there was some controversy regarding the role of the security forces during that 4-day assault. Tell us a little bit more about that.
All right. So the role of the security, their main role was to ensure that they could rescue as many people as they can. But unfortunately, that is not what happened. In fact, there were conflicting security forces in terms of Reke Squad. We have KDF, and all these squads actually were present, and you could see that they had different mandates, and they were being controlled by different people. Thus, there was that confusion. If such situations could be avoided in future, then most probably we could save as many people as we can. And I'll give you an example of Dusit attack, the recent one we had in 2019, where there was a coordinated effort. You could see that the police were working on a system as compared to Westgate, where we had all forces come together. Confusion. You could see some police officers actually eating in a Westgate, in an environment where people are still fighting for their lives, or even in a scenario where these people are waiting to be rescued. And that is not that's something that should be happening. If you could, we could also talk about Garissa attack. You'd see many people lost their lives. 150 students were killed, and you could see there was a coordinated effort with Garissa and Dusit attack as compared to Westgate. So if there was something that the security, their main mandate, actually, if I would say, they failed during the Westgate attack, which this case is about Westgate. So if there was a chance of we could get back in time, actually, we can save as many people as we can. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
All right, thank you, Anna Masharia, reporting for us there in Nairobi. Now, Nigeria's police has denied it opened fire at peaceful protesters earlier this month, adding that 22 officers have been killed since the start of the End SARS protests. Amnesty International, meanwhile, estimates that 56 civilians have so far lost their lives. At the height of the anti-police brutality movement, police allegedly fired into a crowd at a Lagos toll gate on October 20th. Survivors tell their side of the story in this next report by Laurent Berstecker.
Recalling the horror of the Lekki tollgate shooting, Solomon, Patrick, and Samuel showed their bullet wounds as they looked back on a night that will forever be etched in their memories.
They didn't send a warning. They just started shooting at us immediately. Straight bullets.
They were shooting us direct. Shooting to kill, not to threaten.
On October 20th, Nigerians protesting police brutality gathered at the Lekki toll booth in Lagos, defying a curfew that was announced earlier that day. Witnesses say protesters were then surrounded by men in military uniform who started shooting on sight. At least 10 people were killed in a bloodbath which protesters and NGOs are blaming on the Nigerian army. But Nigerian authorities have denied responsibility and dismissed reports of the shooting as fake news. An explanation that's left witnesses baffled and angry.
It was army that came with Nigerian army uniform, Nigerian army gun, and Nigerian army vehicle. So how would they say it's not the army?
A judicial panel meant to investigate allegations of police violence began hearing its first cases earlier this week. It's since been flooded with requests, as dozens of Nigerians have come forward to share harrowing stories of intimidation, torture, and extortion. The panel, which has also been asked to investigate the Lekki shooting, said Friday it had found bullet casings at the site of the massacre.
Congolese businessman and art collector Sindika Dokolo has died at the age of 48. The admirer of contemporary African works was also the husband of the continent's richest woman, Isabel dos Santos. Angola's former first daughter and her husband Dokolo were under investigation for embezzling $1 billion of state funds. Both denied wrongdoing. Dokolo reportedly died in a scuba diving accident in Dubai on Thursday. A minute of silence took place here in Paris to commemorate the life and work of RFI journalists Guylaine Dupont and Claude Verlon. In 2013, the two were kidnapped and killed in Mali after conducting interviews. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb claimed responsibility for their murders. The homage comes in the run-up to the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists. And finally to Morocco. With the North African country's tourism industry crippled by the pandemic, the number of unemployed could double to 2 million this year. Currently, over 4 million households rely on casual work. They're currently receiving state aid. But the self-employed have had to find other ways to make ends meet. As our correspondents report, some have turned this crisis into opportunity thanks to online work.
Traffic jams once again clogged the streets of Casablanca. Abderrahim is a private driver. He says the lockdown caused the sudden loss of his income.
Fin mars, avril, aucun client. Un mois, sans travail, ni rien, ni d'argent, ni rien, c'est très difficile.
Confined to his home, Abderrahim started to look for other ways to make money. Through browsing social media, he got the idea to sell cosmetic products online.
Beaucoup de gens, ils passent seulement le confinement sur Instagram et sur Facebook. Et c'est ça, j'ai cherché quelque chose sur Instagram. J'ai visé les gens sur Instagram pour faire de la publicité.
He now runs his own cosmetic company. His work involves a few simple tools: his car, his phone, and a notebook.
Je suis livreur, commercial, vendeur, designer, je suis tout.
In Rabat, Nizar also learned how to make a living from social media to survive the lockdown. He sells his services on digital platforms dedicated to freelancers.
Finalement, ça a été plus une ouverture. Donc là, il y a pas mal de sites comme Fiverr, Malt, BeFreelancer, et ça permet justement en fait de collaborer avec d'autres personnes justement et et toucher à un autre marché justement et ne pas être juste enfermé sur le marché marocain.
On a larger scale, this business leader saved 4 organic shops and the jobs of his employees by developing his online business.
On était, en tout cas nous, la génération un peu plus ancienne, réticents à Instagram. Quand on nous parlait de blogueuses, de youtubeuses, on était un petit peu réticents. On s'est mis là-dedans à fond parce qu'on a vu l'impact concrètement. Qu'est-ce que ça nous a amené? Beaucoup plus de clients. Deuxièmement, ça nous a permis de garder le personnel, voire de recruter.
A triumph, seeing as independent workers and contractors did not receive any public funds during lockdown. For some of them, the discovery of the digital marketplace has been a revelation.
That's it for Eye on Africa. Charlie James is up next with more world news, headlines and analysis.
The period between the Second World War, when colonial troops fought fiercely with General de Gaulle's Free France, and 1960, when 14 African countries under French administration acquired their independence, marked the end of an empire. Through 4 charismatic leaders, France 24 traces the genesis of their path towards sovereignty. From the Senegalese Léopold Sédar Senghor, prodigal son of the colonial era, to the Guinean rebel Sékou Touré, who defied de Gaulle's authority. From Ivorian Houphouët Boigny, who manoeuvred skillfully behind the scenes of La Franca-Afrique, to Barthélemy Baganda, father of the Central African Republic, who paid with his life for his nationalist commitment. 4 remarkable careers that would shape modern Africa. Don't miss this exclusive documentary on France 24.
Are you pro-mask or anti-mask? Should all European countries have to take in asylum seekers from the Mediterranean? And is climate policy going too far or not far enough? Well, now it's time for you to take part in a real debate. Join us on France 24 for Europe Talks. Along with 17 international media, we want to pair you up with other Europeans to discuss hot-button issues and break out of our social media echo chambers. You can sign up online right now at france24.com/en/Europe Talks and join the conversation. Europe Talks on France 24 and France24.com.